Right, one blog and a very tough subject to put in place. I know people say that this might not be a tough subject in the word of radio, but to me I find it a very tough subject because there's something that I basically do not like when it comes to radio, and I'm sure a lot of people will not agree with me on this one. Some people will, some people won't, and that's basically jobs in radio. That there seems to be few and far of jobs in radio. There is a fair number of radio stations out there that basically, you know, are out there, but sometimes some radio stations are few and far between when it comes to jobs, that they actually don't advertise for the vacancy because they've given it to some, let's call them a celebrity. Yet if you work for something like Heart Radio or Magic and so on, you know, you don't have to be a DJ who's been on other commercial radio stations. You don't have to be somebody new to come into the ranks of radio, because some of the actual spaces, like examples, like for instance, it might be that Heart Radio wants to have a program at night. You know, it'll be like Saturday night. The time will be about 6 o'clock. It'll work until about 6 till 10, or it'll be maybe even earlier. You know, you could be looking at something like 5 o'clock. It could be going up until about 5 till 8 or whatever times. And they just basically say and have this idea of not wanting to give the job to anybody but somebody called Emma Bunton, somebody famous. You know, Magic would feel the same. It would be almost like putting just looking at the Chelsea team, because Chelsea are playing at the moment. Yay! Joe Cole will be playing. Oh, I absolutely love. Anyway, back to the old radio thing. It's the same when it comes to something like I would say in terms of Magic. You know, they have the same thing. It could even work even in the week. You know, you don't have to necessarily do just a one show over the weekend. They might give you some set if it would ever work. You know, they might say, would you be willing to do some couple of hours at night? You know, they want to say at 11 till 1 o'clock at night, Monday to Friday. Could be that all important love song or something like that, you know, and they give it to Ronan Keating. I personally absolutely do not like this, and I despise it one single bit, because basically I don't see why anybody, whether you're John Barrowman, Emma Bunton, whether you're someone like Ronan Keating or whoever, I don't think that you should get, you know, even in Radio 1 and Radio 2 terms, you know, I don't believe that some of the DJs should get jobs in that field, because sadly radio personalities and radio DJs are few and far between now sometimes, because they're not breeding them, sadly, and that's because some of the radio stations no longer wish to use these DJs, but they use famous people. And it's not fair on people who want to actually be trained up and get experience in radio, like myself, who want to work in radio, who can't get into radio because the commercial radio sector and God knows what does not want to employ you. You know, they're not advertising that job, they're giving it to somebody, namely saying Emma Bunton, you know, which is a bit of a sad state when it comes to it. I mean, I know if you were getting to do a job and it was only once a week, you know, if you were something like some DJ, you only did a show on Saturday night for 4 hours or 5 hours at night, doing something like a Saturday night party, people might say you're not actually working, you're only doing one night, you know. But then you're gonna get a little bit of wage on that one. Some DJs might have side jobs away from that, doing things in clubs and pubs, DJing as well, just as much as the radio, which gives them a little bit of work in the week. You know, the Saturday night might be their radio night, but they might always get resident residents on some Friday night or whatever to do something, you know, in a pub or a club. But it's something that I despise, of why people should be getting a job in radio who already are famous and have a job. You know, you're a pop singer, you shouldn't need to go and work in radio, and I despise it one single bit. I think, and you know, and it's not as if they play anything different, because some radio stations are already told that you have to play what is there anyway. So it's not like you're getting the insight to you know, even Kerry's Matthews from Catatonia, she's getting a job on BBC Radio 6. She's fucking famous, and she's getting a job on BBC Radio 6. Why? Because she's famous. BBC Radio 6 can employ somebody like that. But they won't go to somebody who's probably working in commercial radio, who might be leaving their job, and say, "Oh, did you used to work for a certain radio station? You know, what is your musical knowledge and past?" And they might think, "You know what? You've got a musical knowledge there of basically the music we might want from BBC Radio 6. Would you be willing to do a radio show on BBC Radio 6?" You could become famous like that. DJs in the 60s and 70s got famous because they basically come from hospital radio and they work their way up into radio, and then all of a sudden become household names in radio. These days it will never normally happen, because basically the jobs are going to some pop star, you know, Kerry Matthews, you know, who's just going to walk into a job at BBC Radio 6 and present a programme. It's diabolical and ridiculous, and I don't believe in it. And some of the radio stations just basically play the same. So your heart radio might have a DJ who isn't really the famous DJ that basically, you know, by which point on Saturday it's something like 3, 4, whatever, it could be a local DJ that you've got on the radio. He basically plays music for all types of what heart radio play. By the which point when the next programme comes in, as it may not be a typical Saturday night party programme, it might just be basically a show with feel-good songs and a couple of love songs maybe here and there. It will be no different to the programme previously. Emma Bunton will probably play something like a Beyonce record or a Coldplay track or some Leona Lewis, or whether she's playing Whitney Houston, you know, she may well be playing Kings of Leon, Michael Bublé, maybe a couple of old records by people from the 80s, you know, Human League maybe, or it could well be a George Michael record from the 80s or some classic rock set of the 90s. This could well be on her show. But it's no difference that these could have well been the type of artists played previously before, so she's not playing anything different, nothing out of the ordinary. The only thing that somebody has said to me about this is that we prefer to listen to these DJs and have these DJs on the radio, i.e. Emma Bunton, Ronan Keating and that, because they tell stories, they've got stories to tell. I'd rather hear them talk about things than somebody that they don't know. Which is totally fucking wrong and bullshitting. Like, you know, because it's not like they're always going to give you gossip, are they now? I mean, just because you listen to Emma Bunton, it's not going to mean she's going to come along and say, "Oh, I know the gossip in that you wouldn't know this, but gossip. Nah, it's not going to happen like that." So, I do personally think that radio DJs should be diverse, but they shouldn't have to give the old jobs away just because you're famous already. People like myself want to get into radio. If I started working at hospital radio, if I was to DJ there and I got into and I was in community radio or whatever radio station, I may well never get a job working for some of the big radio stations. I might well decide that Radio 1 or Radio 2 want DJs. I might well get that experience, and yet Radio 1 and Radio 2 might turn around and say, "We're not going to employ somebody like you," because we're going to employ somebody called one of the famous TV presenters or something, that just or whoever, who just happens to walk into that job quite easily because they're known to the public eye, as if they're going to be interested in the music and the gossip that person has to offer. Well, anyway, that's it for now. So Ciao.